Well, hello, my name is Jim Royal. I'm a huge Beatles and Elvis Presley fan and basically classic rock in general. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. At the end of the video, if you could do a thumbs up, that's always most appreciated. And feel free to leave comments. I always enjoy reading them and I do my best to try to respond in a timely manner. Today what I wanted to do is just have a brief discussion, and I also want to get your comments too on how you feel about this. There is a album of George Harrison's called All Things Must Pass, which was originally released back in November of 1970. It was his first album after the Beatles had broken up, and a lot of the material he wrote, he wrote while he was a Beatle. Well, anyway, it's getting the box set treatment this year in 2021 here in August. And they've decided to remix the album, tone down the Phil Spector Wall of Sound production, and they also have, depending upon which configuration you buy, you know, there's demos, there's outtakes, early run-throughs and different things, so depending upon what you want to do. I did order it and I did recently receive the remix album, but I have not had a chance to listen to it, so I can't comment on that. But what I did want to do is I wanted to talk basically about rediscovering a classic. Okay? This is an album that I always had a hard time getting into, and it's not because the music wasn't good. It was largely because I had inferior sound equipment. I did not have a good turntable at the time. So I wanted just to talk to you about that, and then about some comments about the remix. Just the idea of, you know, the whole thing being done here. And for me, I think it was good that they did the remix, because my whole plan was I'm going to listen to this first and then I'm going to listen to the remix. So it helped me rediscover a classic. So if that is one good thing that it did, I'm very happy and grateful. So let me tell you briefly my situation with this album. When I was a boy, I got into the Beatles at a very early age. I would listen to them on the car radio. That's where we would hear the music. This was after the Beatles were already broken up. Later on, I watched a movie of the Beatles, Birth of the Beatles, and I asked my mom if we had any Beatle records, and we had 2 of them. I got into those, and I eventually would buy other vinyl, and then later I got into cassettes. Okay, so I was listening to cassettes in the 80s as a teenager. And George and Ringo, their solo stuff came much later for me. Okay, I was probably, I think the first George Harrison, I know the first George Harrison album that I got was called The Best of George Harrison on cassette. I bought it. And it featured, the first side featured George with the Beatles, and then the second side featured George as a solo artist, very abbreviated up through 1975. So they did have 2 songs on there that were on All Things Must Pass, and that's My Sweet Lord and What Is Life, which I love both those songs. I had heard them on the radio, but those were 2 songs from here. So finally, it wasn't until I was about 16 years old. You know, I had been, into the Beatles for years by then, and a family friend had some vinyl. They had old vinyl of the Beatles and solo Beatles, and they were just getting rid of them. And they said, you know, I know you're a big Beatle fan. Do you want these? And I said, sure. So one of the albums was actually that one right there. That is the actual album that they gave me. No poster, but that's okay. And I remember I was very excited by it. Now, we had a record player downstairs in the living room next to the kitchen, and normally we wouldn't play music there. It would kind of disrupt people. The kitchen was right there. So if I wanted to listen to music, unless if it was in the car, I would go up in my room. And I had a boombox, which I would listen to my cassettes on, and then recently I had was given as a gift a new stereo system, and it was kind of more of the budget. It was not the best. Okay, for me it worked out fine for the cassettes. It played them great, it sounded great and everything. It had a dual cassette deck, FM radio, and then inside there also was a turntable. It was all together, so it was a record player. The record player was really very inferior. I remember sometimes I would put music on there and it would have like a real echo sound, and sometimes you'd move the needle around and you'd lose like the vocal track. It would be like in the background. It was really kind of strange. So, you know, I know this album was produced by Phil Spector. He's known for his Wallace sound, and it's a little echoey anyway. So I remember I was really excited by this. I put it on, and you know, I knew that, you know, that George had written most of these songs while he was a Beatle, or a handful of them, you know, at the time. And I had heard some bootlegs. You know, I heard, what did I hear on here? I heard Let It Down, the Beatles going running through that, and All Things Must Pass. I heard a little bit of Hear Me Lord. So I was familiar with some of it, you know, in bootleg form from the Beatles, but I was wondering, well, what's it going to sound like, you know? And then songs like The Art of Dying, which he apparently originally wrote in 1966, I had read. You know, that would have been fine, you know, right around the Revolver period. Or the song Wah Wah, which he wrote, you know, on just after, you know, quitting the Beatles, you know, for about a week and a half during the Let It Be Get Back sessions. So I remember putting this on. I listened to it on that record player, that inferior sounding record player, and I could not get into it. You know, Phil Spector's Wallace sound was a little echoey and was even more magnified. But I listened to it, you know, and some of the songs I dug, you know, but it was not one that I really went back to. You know, it just was not a really good listening experience for me because of that. I could never get into it, so I associated that sound, you know, just thinking, okay, well, that's just how it is, so I could never get into it. The cassette was always very expensive. You know, I remember it being like $20-some, I don't know, 25 bucks. It was something outrageous. It was out of my price range growing up, and, you know, at the time, and, you know, the idea was, well, you already have the record, you know, you can play the record. And then some CDs, when I got into CDs later, you know, I remember being like $32.99. So sometimes the solo stuff was kind of hard to find, especially George and Ringo, and I tried to pick it up in record form where I could. So that was it. So it's had on a shelf. You know, I didn't really listen to it, couldn't really appreciate it, and I feel bad about that, you know, because it's so good. It's such a good classic. Well, finally 2005 comes around, and I picked up the DVD Concert for Bangladesh, and they feature some of the songs on there, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. So that was more of a reacquaintance with it. Well, finally, in just the last few years, I think it was within the last 2 years, I ended up picking this guy up. And this is the 2000 version. This is a used copy of it. There's My Sweet Lord 2000 on there. But basically, you know, you have the whole album again. George didn't remix it. So this was under George's authority, you know. And I listened to it again. And I was like, all right, cool, you know. But, you know, I'm listening. Well, finally, the last, you know, I had better equipment now than I did. Okay? And that's the whole moral of the story. Just, if you're going to listen to this stuff, you know, try to get as best equipment as you can. I mean, you don't have to spend thousands, but, you know, listen to it on something that just sounds bad to begin with. Doesn't do it justice. And I got into this again thinking, okay, the remix is out. I want to, you know, listen to this first and then I'll listen to the remix. I'm telling you, I fell in love with this. Okay, I really fell in love with this. I just think it's great. I really like every song on here. Okay, the Apple Jam is tolerable. That's the other thing. People complain about the Apple Jam. They said, oh, you know, the songs are too long and they're boring and I don't like jams. You know what? I think maybe the jams were more fun for the musicians at the time, okay? But a song like It's Johnny's Birthday, I mean, it's not a jam, but it's on the Apple Jam. It's a minute long. It's a birthday tribute to John Lennon. You know, I mean, if anything, I do want to hear the take one of that. Maybe they don't have it slowed down and speeded up and stuff on there like they do in this. But I like it, you know, I mean, it's fine. And then, you know, there's two songs that I think are maybe a little on the long side, but Plug Me In is fine, and I Remember Jeep. I mean, they're all listenable to me. They're not like excruciating, you know, like, I don't want to hear it. And the other thing too, people talk about Phil Spector's Wall of Sound. I'm going to tell you, you know what? Phil Spector helped made this record what it is. Okay, him and George produced it. George signed off on it. It was fine for the time. Okay, and I know everybody wants to look back, you know, with their ears of today and stuff. Appreciate what it was, you know, because it's still good. All right, if you like the remix, fine, but you know, it was released this way originally. This is a 2014 version of it, by the way. And I just love it. I love the song thing. Now, I will be honest and say the song Wah Wah, yeah, it's a little muddy. Okay, I'm not going to lie. You know, I'm being honest here. But the rest of it, I think, is fine. And I think Phil Spector's sound only, I think, enhances it. And I love the dreamlike, you know, the art of dying, just the separation. And it sounds really cool. So, you know, that's the other thing people say. They knock it. You know, it was done very well. So in conclusion here, I just wanted to say, and, you know, rediscovering this and finding out just how special this is. If anything, if the remix does anything for you, I hope that you will go back and listen to the original and appreciate that for what it was and what it still is. It's a classic and it's wonderful. So I want to thank you very much for watching my video, but make sure you try to listen to your music on the best equipment that you can. You don't have to spend a lot of money, but my whole thing is I missed out on this for years because I remembered how it sounded on that poor sounding record player. So take care and thanks for watching my video. Bye.